Hello and welcome to the Batty Overwatch League preseason show. We are in week 2 of the playoffs, and so far we've seen one bit of an upset with very aggressive Genji beating Stu in the finals. What do you think of that, Albino Joe?
Yeah, it was a pretty big upset. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch the games live because I was assuming it was gonna go one way, but it ended up going the other, which, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. I know very aggressive Genji actually was running the real lineup, with Chromatic Danko, Crystallize, I believe it was Pendry, I think twice, and Thor, backing him up as well. And I guess that's the dream team because I don't. How often have they ran that full comp in the season? Even do you know?
Uh, from what I remember, not too much, especially since majority of it primarily came. Well, you always had either Josh Danko or Chromatic playing. One was playing a tank. One was usually playing
Hello
Zarya,
and
just so they
welcome
could get those
to
sick Pharah ultimates, or especially for Josh Danko. We got what about like 6 of them, 6 or 7 of them.
Oh yeah, he had a lot of plays of the game as Farah.
And this time around, they had both Chromatic and Josh Danko as their DPS lineup, and also what was it, BOL S3 if my memory serves me correctly,
I think
or
Ball Sexy's on a different team. He was on
I
Muffin's
I
team.
mean think twice.
There you
Think
are.
twice. Think twice. Sorry. Ball Sexy is still a good player. Um but yeah,
Ah,
running well. You're running the triple DPS, and that seems to be working very good for them. They have Thor jumping as a mad monkey with the Winston, and then Crystallize being the heat, or and then they're going double healer, I believe. So kind of sacrificing that extra tank slot so that they're able to get a little bit more damage output. And it seems like since they have that high concentrated skill up in their DPS roles, they're able to just kind of frag out from there.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I never got an eye on the games, but something I do also know that I would like to note is that Wee was not on See on the Finals, and Tree was their emergency replacement sub. That, you know, that kind of shows the skill gap. I mean, I don't want to trash on Tree too much or, praise Wii too much either. But there's either a skill gap or some sort of team communication gap or something going on. That maybe led to their downfall, or
I
maybe
mean,
just very
you
aggressive
you have to think
Genji's
of it this
original comp
way.
is good.
Uh, the way the way Hook resets or Wee just call him Hook resets for now, plays DPS very differently than Tree, and I think with how training and practicing went, they're probably very used to how Hook resets is able to dish out damage, is able to kind of move around the battlefield, while Tree plays the Pharah master and also plays a hell of a lot of Junkrat, basically glorified explosion expert, or the demo man, as we like to call back in the TF2 days. Uh, and I don't know, maybe that's just did not mesh well with the playstyle they were going for.
Yeah, and I mean that could definitely be what that could definitely be what the downfall was. Big team breakdown and when 1/6 of your team is no longer, in the loop with how things go down, that can really affect, how the whole team operates and multiply from there.
But I'm sure the he Hook Resets was in Spain. He was on vacation, and I heard he had a fantastic time.
Woot! Well,
But
anywho, moving on, let's
yeah,
quick talk about. Actually, before we talk about this matchup tonight, I want to give a shout out to the award show that is happening before next week's games. We'll be hosting it here on the pregame show, I believe. And yeah, we had 2 players from each team vote. I believe it was for our team, UTech. Well, I'm going to list the people so you can hate who you want to hate when results don't go the way that you want them to. UTech, you're one of the people.
oh, am I? Wait, I mean, I'm nominated, right?
No, you were one of the voters.
Oh yeah,
Voters.
yeah.
Yeah, the voters were you. We have Thrifty from our team. Then we have Failed Destiny and Tree from Lenny Face, 30, and I want to say Jim Bone from When Stony Baloney, Zed and AJS from Seeing the Finals, and lastly Chromatic and Crystallize on Very Aggressive Genji. So they are the voters. They will be the ones that have nominated, voted for everything for certain categories that we have coming up. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a very important pregame show. You don't want to miss the best Mercy in the league.
Oh, and that has been a coveted spot this entire season. I mean, it's a very tight race between Scotch and Swift. But I hear there might be like Crystallize might be peeking in there, trying to catch some ground. I mean, you're also trying to catch a little bit of ground. I know it's you got to fly really high there, Joey. But I don't know. It's gonna be tough to beat either Scotch or Swift.
No, I'm the dark horse. I'm getting that. Anyway, so don't miss that next week. I'll remind you again at the end of this. But tonight's game, when Stony Baloney versus Very Aggressive Genji. So we saw a little bit of Very Aggressive Genji last game. Got a 3-1 technically sweep, but effectively a 3-0 sweep against C in the finals with a little bit of a handicap there. But when Stoney's team, I don't think will go down so easily. I think they'll put up a good fight. Do you have any comment on that, Utek?
Yeah. I mean, let's break it down right now. They have 30 on their team. Let me tell you that right now. 30. He has. If you look at his record, he's peaked at 3,900. That is the highest anyone has ever seen in this league. To anywhere. He's almost a grandmaster. I say almost because I'm sure he can definitely make it. He is that skillful. But he also has a very dedicated cast and crew supporting him. They do have one of the top contenders for the best mercies in the league. They have Scotch, as well as Jim Bone, who is a fantastic tank player. Although I know, has he been? I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure he's been playing a lot of tanks, but he might have switched off that role every so often. Um, Additionally, they have Tree Meister, Wily Coyote, and then Evo Light, one of the people that's really been popping off in his Pharah plays.
Whoa, Utek, your mic is going crazy.
Oh
man. It's going
God.
crazy. Okay, it's fixed now. Kinda? Yeah, now it's fixed. You got some weird stuff going on with that new mic, man.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Just want you to know I have a new mic, and I hope it's. I wonder if it's because I'm like moving my. If it's I'm moving my mic around and it's picking up on the vibrations of like the my desk moving, but
I don't think that's it. But we can figure it out. You're fine now. Doesn't matter. Continue
yeah.
with your thought.
But and then they have Evo Light, who's been popping off. He's been putting a lot of time and effort into that Pharah, and it's gonna be a tough nut to crack. Although especially against or Very Aggressive Genji, was about to say C in the finals, uh, but Very Aggressive Genji, they're definitely putting a lot of emphasis on their DPS, and at that point, if they can continue with that momentum, especially right now, we don't have Doomfist in these games. Dive is still very much a thing, and basically just getting into anyone's face, going in faster than the enemy can. Basically, the best defense right now is a well-rounded offense. And
Yeah, and they have
so,
that. They have that whole entire dive metric. I know Jim Bones. Like you're saying, his Winston can be kind of scary. Tree Meister's kind of been learning a little bit. Just a lot of stuff going for Winstony, and Very Aggressive Genji also has that dive comp too. I mean, they both have very aggressive comps. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
it's definitely going to be, can they move as a team into this? It's basically a game of space. If they can move their team into the enemy space and just kind of frag out from there, then it'll just be good tidings for all.
I have a hunch that 30 is going to be playing a little bit more Tracer than usual tonight, but we'll find out tonight, I guess. I don't know. Sounds like the lobby's made right now. So before we cut to the game and start actually streaming, I just want to say, to keep my integrity as a caster, I need to say that I have partaken in fake news.
Oh,
I did say that 30 and Jim Bone were the representatives from Stony Baloney for the vote. I was incorrect. I'm sorry. Wile E. Coyote is actually in place of voting instead of Jim Bone.
fired.
I just don't want to be I don't want to be forced to resign. I don't have any connections with Russia. Just it's
This is
Wile E. Coyote.
this is Sir Too Good moment. You're fired. Call Gabe Newell.
Oh
You're
God,
fired.
that's it. I'm going on Trump's advisory board. All right, on to the game. We will see you guys, I guess, watching the stream.
Yeah, I will be casting, and if not next week, we'll have the awards show, and it'll be technically the last pre-game show and games of the season. So until then, stick around, have some fun, grab a drink, and we'll see you soon.
Oh hey, and also make sure no one forgets the pregame show next week will be hosting the award ceremonies. Do not miss the award ceremony. We'll be on maybe a little bit earlier, but awards will definitely be starting circa 6:45, 6:40, something along those lines.
Don't miss the circle jerk. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game 2 of the playoffs. Well, I should say Round 2 of the playoffs. We have very aggressive Genji versus Winstony Baloney. With me to help cast is the big dick man himself, AJS0, aka Swift. How's it going, man?
Oh, not too bad. I've had a week to get over our humiliating loss in the quarterfinals to bring you very aggressive Genji's run through the entire playoffs, where they are very clearly equipped to beat every team in the league after last week. And I'm sticking to that as we head into this first match here.
Basically, the Cinderella story right here, coming out of nowhere. Now, I'm kind of rooting for them because after that, then they go up against Wang Jing Tower, uh, and even then, I'd like to see them act. I know I'm on Wang Chang, but I'd like to see them actually give them a run for their money.
Yeah, this will be a really big night for them narrative-wise. I think after last week, we're still not entirely sure what to make of very aggressive Genji. Did they just win against you in the finals because Hooker Seth wasn't there, or was it, they were playing really well themselves? Was how much of both was it? So if they come in tonight and after the way they close out the regular season, if they can play a competitive series tonight, whether they win or lose, they're going to kind of have validated themselves as a team. Whereas if they come in and they just get kind of blown the fuck out, it's going to look even worse for CU in the finals after that really, really devastating 3 straight map loss they had last week.
Exactly, and nobody wants to see a team that beats you get wrecked themselves. It kind of gives you like more of a sense of, all right, this was a legit challenge. Like they actually have something and not something that was a fluke. But then again, looking at the lineups, we have very aggressive Genji on the red team, and we have Winstony Baloney on the blue team defending. Looks like they're not even running a Winston, and very aggressive Genji isn't even running a Genji.
Join me.
How
Yeah,
dare they not even?
a few picks a little different than what we were seeing a lot of in the regular season. The big one here on defense, we got Treemeister on the Zarya, which is pretty much an entirely new pick for him. Not surprised, she's really strong after buffs on the last patch. And on the other team, we've got double hit scan coming out. Chromatic and Danko, the best 2 players on their team, along with your Pendra and the Zenyatta. They're going to be trying to put a lot of pressure down onto Evolite early on here. So that's my big matchup to watch as we start this off. Otherwise, things looking pretty standard for very aggressive Genji.
It looks like they're coming around the first corner of first point, getting 2 picks on by both 30 and Evo as Thor jumps in, trying to do as much as he can, but it looks like Jim's going to be able to drop down, going to be able to lay down and press start. Getting caught off himself, I think twice in Thor, but looks like the payload is going to be staying in the archway as people are just going to kind of keep fighting it out.
Yeah, that was really an awkward split from Winstony Baloney. They had 4 split into the tunnel, 2 split off into very aggressive Genji, and now they're at the man disadvantage as the spawns come in, and they're really falling back. Scotch and Wily Coyote both going down, so there's no heals available for Winstony, as I think this is going to turn into them losing the first point. Treemeister goes down inside the building, and just awkward engage to start things off here.
And it looks like 30 already having his ult, but unable to really utilize it as the team is not able to regroup in time for the first point, and as we head to street phase.
Yeah, going to be some really good ult economy coming out here for very aggressive Genji. 2 ults up on the healers, close on a few more.
Oh, and a nice pick by Evolite onto Chromatic, making sure that there's 1 man less. Are they gonna, at this point, they really need to use their pressure with the man advantage.
Yeah, it looks like they're, just as they're getting this card up into the choke point, Thor's going to have to play his cards here, jump in. Jashenko going in on the D.Va as well. He switched off the McCree onto that D.Va as Think Twice finally goes down. Pack Visor's going to be traded here.
Taking out a key target and that Anna not going to be able to actually... And also taking out Jim, making sure that there is no front line for Winstony Baloney. And it looks like very aggressive Genji, keeping up to their aggressive part of the name, are going to keep on pushing the street phase, and as they're going to keep on putting pressure. Thor going into the backline, making sure 30 can't get any value out of his soldier play.
Yeah, very aggressive Genji has entirely stepped off the cart. They're not even pushing it right now. They're just focused on pushing back Winstony Baloney as the ape shit's going to get dropped in the backline by Thor. Gets the kill onto 30, and now we see the Diva ult going in. Gonna take out both of the healers for Winstony Baloney. This will probably translate into the second point capture. As Jim, trying to save the day, drops the hammer. Evelyn dropping a really deep Pharah ult. Doesn't find anybody from that far out. And now it's just Jim condemned to his fate behind the kite here. And that's going to be the second point cap with 5 minutes remaining here. Very aggressive Genji. Looking great.
And if you look at this, I really have to say, like, it's amazing. They're easily getting in to this third point. And I don't know. You have to look at Winstony Baloney. I definitely think, you know, something that they're doing is not being effective. I'd
argue that nothing they're doing is being effective. They look like they have no idea how to team fight. 30 wants to switch things up. He switches off to the Tracer. He's going to immediately die as a result. Although,
and a nice ult from Think Twice onto the supports, making sure that they weren't able to get the Mercy, getting the resin, but a nice Graviton Surge coming in, trying to get the nano boosted Jim. Reinhardt to try to get what he can, but the Transcendence is able to hold everything up and allows very aggressive Genji to just stay on this push. As a 6-man tug, they're pushing. They're gonna get an easy 3 points.
Yeah, 4 minutes and 7 seconds remaining there for very aggressive Genji, picking up right where they left off last week in the quarterfinal. Not a good start for Winstony Baloney, who, you know, I don't know how much they practice as a team, but they haven't had a play on stream in 3 weeks now. Maybe this is just a slow, kind of rusty start for them, or maybe it's a sign of something serious. We'll see here. But just like seeing the finals last week, they are not going to have any room for error here, as they're going to have to push this hard. It's very far, very fast, and then be able to do it again. And there was no fight on that map where it looked like Winstony Baloney was going to be competitive. Despite getting picks before multiple fights, they couldn't win fights with man advantage. And that's a situation where it's really hard to imagine them just turning things around quickly.
The one problem I think I saw was the choice of the main tank, and if you saw that Reinhardt, he wasn't able to get any sort of value out of it. If you think about it, he tries to shield for anything. Since they're running the super aggressiveness of the dive, they're just gonna jump on the back. If he doesn't stay in the line of sight of the Ana that they were using as their main healer, he's just gonna die alone. Definitely one of those things where, I mean, I like seeing the switch up. It looks like they're gonna be going, you know, both the Winston and the Diva, especially, and they're gonna have the Wile E. Coyote on the Lucio to get speed going everywhere. But definitely not a lot of teamwork coming in out of Winstony Baloney off the gate.
Yeah, and I didn't really like Treemeister on the Zarya either. This is a guy who hasn't shown us he's got a gigantic hero pool all season, and that just seemed like one of those stereotypical, when it goes wrong, it goes very wrong for a 30 team, where it's, okay, you're going to just play the new meta hero. And Treemeister maybe not as comfortable on that as he's been on the Diva and the Winston, so they are completely switching things up, going for a pretty stereotypical dive comp, with 30 on the Tracer, Jim on the Winston being the big picks here. And
I mean, Reinhardt Zarya can work, but you definitely need the Lucio to speed boost, and they did not have that to allow them the mobility to just stay in fights. But it looks like they're going to be peeking off into this next corner. They have the Symmetra turrets kind of placed all around the archway as they kind of poke through, seeing what they can get. But it's going to be a tough nut to crack as they continue, you know, giving ground, as Sony gives ground to Sony. And
yeah, but that did give your Pendry the Symmetra ult charge entirely. Gonna see if he can drop something here, as he should be able to get his teammates back if he can find a place to drop it. And there we go, the teleporter finally online. So all of these spawns, we're gonna see a nice regroup coming fast here for very aggressive Genji.
Well, they gotta find a nice place to regroup themselves and make sure they don't just come in one-on-one, or they're all gonna die as well.
Yeah, they're stalling for a lot of time here. But might not be enough as they're blowing through the charges on the teleporter. But ooh, a nice 3-man bomb coming out of 30. And that teleporter not going to matter anymore. This should be a cap for Winstony, as Josh Danko tucking his tail and getting the hell out of there.
And it looks like Jim playing very aggressive to T-Mech the Diva, and is able to get a kill off of that as well. And that is one less person to the defense, as they should be able to get to at least the midpoint of the Streets phase.
Yeah, that pick's huge. That gets them past the first kind of choke, this first bend that you see a lot of people contest before Danko will be able to get back to his team.
Looks like Evil Light's gonna try to take the high ground, make sure no one can really get the jump on anyone. He is close to his ult. If he not, nope, he already has his ult. He's looking for a juicy pick. But here comes a beat being dropped by Wily Coyote to try to start the point. Evil Light trying to coming back, able to get the two tanks in the front line as they get revived by the Mercy, and making sure the team fight is even. But having man advantage being taken away by 30, but being traded himself 30, the damage source is down. Jim being taken down as well, and it looks like, if anything, this push is continuing on as pick after pick is being taken out of very aggressive Genji. It looks like in both cases, the attacking side just has an extreme advantage.
Yeah, no clue how to play defense seems to be the story of the day so far. Is Heavilight gonna smack thing twice off that ledge there to finish things off. A minute to go here to match very aggressive Genji's time. So at the rate they've been going, this could be very close, but only takes one good defensive fight to change that story around. As there are a lot of ults available for very aggressive Genji. And they're tossing in the D.Va ult kind of deep. Ends up going a little too far. Doesn't pick anybody off from Winstone Baloney. But 30 does get Thor way deep in the backline. As we start seeing picks getting traded both ways.
And it looks like Scott's gonna pop that Transcendence just to make sure they're able to secure that next bend. But here comes Think Twice using his ult, able to get two picks as both Jim and Scotch on the Winston and Zenyatta go down. And it looks like they're going to be able to reset their defenses for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and that'll buy them enough time that if Winstone Baloney does push this card all the way, they won't be able to push it as fast as very aggressive Genji did. Not that the difference between 4 minutes and 3 is necessarily going to be a deciding factor.
But it looks like, I mean, anytime they can buy is just a greater boon to them. Such a nice Gravitas Surge coming on in, but also a Sound Barrier to counter it. So tank ult for support ult.
Yeah, and 30 there, gonna pick off both the healers from very aggressive Genji. This card, that's 3 picks from Vag before 30 finally goes down. As Evelite pushes in pretty deep with the Reaper ult. That's now most of the opposing team down. And that should get the cart most of the way to the point. I don't think that Winstone Baloney is going to be contested here. And just like that, 3 minutes and 31 seconds to play.
I think both teams have just forgotten how to defend. Like,
yeah.
I feel like this is no longer a game of defense. It's just a game of who has the better offense.
Yeah, and that's enough time to work with for both of these teams. They're gonna get substantial offensive pushes going here. Any stop that one of these teams can mount on defense could decide who's going to take this map as we prepare for overtime.
Definitely, I think. I mean, if they're gonna be much more aggressive while they're on offense, they might as well go super balls to the wall while they're on defense and just take those big team fights while you can. And then reset the fight. I mean, you might as well at that point if you, instead of just allowing yourself to be whittled down each time.
Alright, so one swap up we're going to see here on defense. Chromatic switching over to the Zarya. I really love this pick. When my team was preparing for this matchup last week, I was expecting to see a ton of Chromatic on Zarya. Very popular pick at high elo right now. Chromatic, probably the best Zarya in the league as well. Just...
Oh yeah, by
the
far.
way he puts damage out, like when you're getting beat up by a Zarya, you don't really know what to do about it because there's no easy fix.
You focus the Zarya, that's what you do. If you see that Zarya have a lot of damage or a lot of energy, that means that is the biggest threat to you right now, and you as a team and your teammates as a team need to just focus that Zarya and get it out of the way.
So,
of course, kill the Mercy first if it's Mercy's problem.
So
looks like they're going to be running a similar strategy to what they did before with the Symmetra, but it looks like 30's going to be sneaky, going to try to see if he can get a pin in the back. But Thor trying to be aggressive in the front, but could get picked off himself as 30 is able to kind of get him off on the side. And Jim and 30 are able to do some damage, and that is one less tank in the front lines. And it looks like very aggressive Genji is taking a lot of heavy casualties, as they are going to be down 2 people with only a 3-man defense. But Chromatic showing everybody why he is the king of Zarya and why he can dish out a lot of damage while holding on to the point, as he gets a pick up onto Wile E. Coyote, making sure this thing up. And oh, looks like it. Chromatic already giving his ult, trying to do what he can. Maybe they can demech the D.Va. Able to demech the D.Va, making sure that that defense matrix won't have any value, as 30 is trying to come into the front line, seeing if he can do anything. Taking down Treemeister, taking down Jim. Think twice on the Reaper. Have to think twice about that name there.
Yeah, this is the first real defense we've seen all of Dorado, and it's going to be a stop from very aggressive Genji. They didn't even need to pull Winstone Baloney fully into the Symmetra field, and they now have a teleporter online. Going to be a much more effective ult to have available while they're successfully holding than it was last rounds, where they were kind of trying to panic recover from a lost fight.
It looks like your Pendry is definitely getting a lot of value out of it. They have the teleporter down, making sure they're able to get a full man roster, and they are gonna have to try to search for it if they really want to get rid of quick reinforcements. But it looks like they're still kind of biding their time, seeing what they can pick off. If they can
they're waiting out.
Damage.
Yeah, Winstone was kind of waiting for tank respawns there, as long as they're remech out of Treemeister, which they just got both of those available. But they're about to push into a really bad ult disadvantage. That is 5 ults available on Teleporter up. Graviton Surge coming out. The Wile E. Coyote ultimate not going to be fast enough to stop the Wombo combo, as we just have a Mad Monkey jumping in, trying to win this fight solo. But as great as Jim is, I don't think that's going to happen, as that is a mop-up with only 3 of ults required coming out of very aggressive Genji. And it's just going to be Wile E. Coyote's ults available going into this next fight for Winstone
And that is
Baloney.
Chromatic's, what was that, his second ult that he's had?
Yes.
And in the 4 minutes, he's been able to farm 2 ults with Zarya. That is insane in 4 minutes.
Yeah, Chromatic playing
insane.
super well, kind of like we expected. As Wile E. Coyote popping the preemptive ult just to get his team into this choke point, but the cart still not moving. That Lucio ult not going to be worth anything, as now Thor's dropping his Winston ultimate, trying to beat people around off this cart. Crystallize does go down before he can get the res off, so that could be an opportunity here for Winstone, as they get 2 picks early in this fight.
Looks
but
like
now
Thor
Jim
is
goes
going to
down
be going
to
down.
2 for
He's sliver
2.
of health.
Yeah, Treemeister tossing the ult in pretty deep, but does not find anything. But Chromatic on the other end finds a bunch of picks as the Zarya, and Treemeister not on top of that cart. After 2 halves of no defense, we see some great defense coming out there. The Chromatic on the Zarya was a huge catalyst for that round. And now Winstone Baloney kind of have things stacked up against them here, because they have to hold this cart pretty deep.
Can you say C9, Z9, B12, F16?
I could, but I think there was too much going on at once there for Winstone Baloney. They had people dead. I don't think it was as bad as some of those like C9 situations where you see literally the entire team alive, just not paying attention to the objective. And I also don't think they were going to push that cart any further. It was going to be contested, and they were still going to lose. It could have been more embarrassing.
Definitely
Regardless, not how they want to see their first half of overtime end.
Oh yeah, they got 4 minutes just to get it past the archway, and I mean it's not that hard to push unless they're gonna have to play very, very aggressive, try to hold it right at spawn, maybe do a little bit of spawn camping. But I mean, they're also running they're gonna be running the Reinhardt again, so they're gonna try to just stay right up in front. I feel like they're not gonna be able to do that well, especially since your Pendry is, well, no, I know. Who am I thinking of? Well, they have the Lucio, so they're going to be able to move around, but they're going to have to play a lot more forward if they want to get any value out of it.
Yeah, and Evelite goes down super early. That is not how Winstone wanted to start this map off. They're going to have to take an outman fight here right underneath this bridge, really before it even gets into the proper choke.
And they have
As
no
Jim
one to
goes
help
down
that
now
Reinhardt.
too. Oh no. And now no one's even getting in there to contest this card. This is just a total breakdown here for Winston Bologna as True gets on at the last possible second.
And it looks
And we
like
see
they're going to
Scotch
continue
and
on the
30
fight.
both go down. Treemeister goes down, and now there's no one contesting this card. Lucio hops in, but look at that. A deep Reaper ult out of Think Twice, and that is going to be an easy push in the first map, won by very aggressive Genji, who just looked overall outstanding on this map.
And as you said, yes, outstanding is the best word I can use, or I think we can use to describe this. But let's look at the play of the game. I think I know what it is. Yeah, and it's 30 coming in on the Tracer. Now let's see what's going in. He knows that he has one mission, one objective. Jump in and press Q.
Oh, Crystallize delivers that to his team. A great toss out of 30 there, going to be his consolation prize for a pretty rough first round.
Definitely in that hold. If you looked at how they position themselves, they had a Reinhardt playing very forward, but no one was there to help him. Basically what it was is that the only lifeline that he had was the Mercy. Just kind of trying to pocket him, and no one else to really kind of allow him to play around. And so basically, anytime anyone got close to him when he tried to swing his hammer, he's just an open casket waiting to happen. But all in all, great game for very aggressive Genji, showing up that they can bring the heat to 30 in his team. So I'm wondering what maps are going to be banned and what we're going to see next.
Yeah, I am. At least when Stony Bologna is going to have the opportunity to pick here, I expect we're going to see them go in a very different direction than what they just played. They will tend to gravitate towards King of the Hill maps all season, so I think there's a good chance that that's where we're going to go next. But we'll see in a moment here after Genji pops out their 4 bans.
Now, probably not going to ban any sort of 2CP map. I know both sides don't really enjoy 2CP too much, but probably either going to see another payload or maybe either a hybrid or even, I don't know, any predictions. I'm going to say Elios. We're going to see Elios.
Well, bans coming out, and they are all going to be. Sorry, it's going to be a mix of payload and King of the Hill map. So we've got Nepal and Ilios available here for Winstony Bologna. I'm thinking we're going to see Nepal. That's been a map they've been real fond of all season.
Anything that 30 can do to try to frag out, he's gonna try to do that. So actually, I might change to Nepal just because they might. I think 30 feels a lot more comfortable on that map. Just being in the Weep Hut just makes him feel a little bit more cozy at night. Oh, and I shouldn't have changed it because they picked Elios.
Yeah, both maps that we've seen a lot of games out of Winstonian, so we had the game type right. That counts for something. And both these teams ready, so we are gonna hop in here for what may be some of the last best of 5 King of the Hill you're ever gonna see in esports, folks. With competitive switching King of the Hill maps to best of 3 in the upcoming season.
Yeah, Papa Jeff laying down the smackdown says, I do not want long games of King of the Hill.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Apex over in Korea, they have been running King of the Hill as best of 3 for, I don't know if since the very beginning, but at least for a while now. So that's kind of looking like the standard. And, you know, I'm fine with that.
Same here, man. Like, especially if we're able to get more games, and who knows, maybe next season for the Batty Overwatch League, we'll start doing where it's kind of a semi-rotation, semi-pick of, best of 5 for games. Kind of how they had for, was it regionals or to get to the Blizzard Cup?
Yeah, I'm not too sure on the format of that. I haven't really been interested in the qualifier. It's too many steps removed from high level competition for me. But we are ready to roll here, so both these teams got their picks locked in. Gonna see that's actually a bit of a switch. Treemeister switching over to the Lucio and Wily Coyote taking the Soldier 76, so that's gonna be a role swap coming out of Winstony Baloney. Not feeling good coming off of that first map. We have seen this pick once or twice out of these guys, but still always surprising to see it.
It looks like a pick coming out of Wily Coyote on the Soldier, taking out Josh Danko. That is one of the key pieces of the DPS squad. As Thor gonna try to show a little thing, but he is gonna be left alone. But no one's gonna be able to take him out, as he is just kind of in the front line trying to do what he can. But ooh, Crystallize getting taken out by Wily Coyote. Maybe this is a great switch after all. Look at how much value he is getting out of that Soldier right now. Already at 90% to his ult. Evilite as well able to help frag out. And it looks like Winstony Baloney is going to be able to take this point.
Yeah, awesome first push out of Winstony Baloney there. They looked a little split at the start. I didn't think it was going to go well for them, but once they got things turned around, it worked super well. And now they push aggressively. They get a pick on a Crystallize with the Pulse Bomb to buy themselves some more time before this next fight, where they'll be going in with great ult economy.
And if you can look at 30 just in the very, very front, he's really itching for that kill. He's really itching to frag out. It looks like both sides are just going to be interested in doing a little poke damage. Evil Light's going to try to get a little bit of extra charges on his ult, as well as Scotch, who is 90% away from a res. Crystallize already has the res, though, so if they go in for a team fight, they will have the extra lives.
Yeah, that'll be the big thing to watch for going into this. Is 30 going to be the first casualty here? Scotch now does have the res available, so I expect he's going to bring his team captain back here. As Evelite's dropping the rocket barrage, but there's a double res coming out of Crystallize, and 30 does not get res. Scotch instead going for Wily Coyote and Treemeister. As we've got a 5v6 on the point here. 30 should be back pretty soon, but Evelite now going down. This is looking good for very aggressive Genji as they're starting to get ults available. Your Pendry coming from the deep end with a Tranquility. Looks like it must have been to save his own life there. Meanwhile, Diva ult going up into the air. Thor taking out 230 and Treemeister not keeping their bearing straight on that one.
Unable to get that sound barrier off, so which could have probably saved 30 and his own life, but I'm gonna unable to hold, and they're gonna just get a few percentage points back on themselves. Able to get up to 77% though, not to the.
It was a nice long fight executed out of very aggressive Genji there. They turned slow pick into slow advantage until they finally kept the point a good 30-something% later. They don't have a lot of leeway to work with to lose this point though. As Treemeister leading with the Lucio ult, Josh Danko goes down trying to drop the high noon. As Think Twice going for a Reaper ult from the backline, he only finds Scotch, but that's a healer off the board. As we see in full dive comp style, things getting pretty split here. Both teams trading picks, but it's looking good for very aggressive Genji right now, as 30 is going hero mode near this point, maybe just trying to catch somebody with their pants down, but not finding them. Chromatic gonna chase him the hell off that point.
Evo did a fantastic play of trying to hide beneath the well, but Chromatic was able to catch on and just kind of aimed right down into the big hole of darkness.
So Diva ult stalled out for Thor. He's going to be remeked here as we finally have a 6v6 going in here. Going to be a few ults close on both of these teams, so this could get really explosive once the fight engages, as both Mercy res is going to be available. That's the big one to watch for. As we see, I think Twice is playing Reinhardt?
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't he playing Reaper before? And he was able to get some good value out of that. But knowing that they have the res, able to play a little bit aggressively, as your Pendry and Think Twice and Thor are all able to just kind of just say, this is my point, hold our ground.
Great pick out on a Scotch early there too. They take that res off the table, and now there is not going to be another 6v6 in this map unless Jim makes the play of all plays to stall this overtime out, which he is currently doing. His health bar not going anywhere during that Winston ult, and he's won most of his team time to get here. But Evelite immediately goes down to the tactical visor. Great shot out of Chromatic. Danko gonna finally take out Jim. We got a 4v6 on the point. Scotch coming in, gets the res. We do get another 6v6 here in overtime. As we see, Think Twice dropping the hammer onto not much. Rocket Barrage coming out from behind his shield. The D-ball not going to do more than zoning. But we
It
see
looks
a
like-
lot of Winstony Baloney on this point before finally Very Aggressive Genji step back onto it. They cannot step back off or they're giving this point over. They're just playing against 2 healers and a soldier. Now that 30 is down on the Tracer, but they are not getting any shots down as we finally see Wile E. Coyote. Sorry, Chromatic showing up there on the soldier, goes down pretty fast as Jim is returning to the point. Crystallize gets back on this point, gets a 2-man res off, brings the Zenyatta and soldier back from the grave. As we are now back to a full 6v6 at this point before Think Twice goes down.
Oh, but look at that. Think Twice getting booped into the well, making sure that his sound barrier is coming out of Tree Meister to keep everyone healthy, as 6-man is still full force. Your Pendry also popping the Tranquility, make sure Josh Dango trying to do a sequel, getting a nice big 3-man ult with the Deadeye, making sure that both DPS and the Mercy are down. Jim being taken out, and it looks like only 30 and Tree Meister as Lucio and the Tracer are just trying to fight for their dear life to stay on. 30 able to get the frag off onto that.
30,
Looks,
no!
Oh no! Oh no, 30 falling into the pit.
Oh,
And losing it for his team. I don't know who's more salty right now. Me or 30, because I'm
30's
just, oh.
done this before too. You gotta stop playing Tracer on the well, man. You could fall into that well. That kills you.
I heard he was simply the best.
Oh man. He still is, but not on that map. 30 now officially has a history with Tracer on the well. And in typical 30 fashion, he's not going to be playing the same hero 2 maps in a row, but I like to imagine it's because he's salty with how that map ended.
But you also have to give credit to where credit's due. Josh Danko with that amazing 3-man Deadeye, able to just kind of get the DPS down, get the Mercy down. Oh man, that was
Yeah, it
just
really
a
was for
juicy
something
play.
that's typically a meme ult, too. You don't normally see those gigantic Deadeyes, especially in a situation like that. Great shots out of Danko as we get started here on Lighthouse. 30 going down to Chromatic very early.
It looks like they're gonna be able to kind of envelop the point, making sure that they
Yeah.
can just do damage.
Nice job swarming to this point. Crystallize goes down, but I don't think there's going to be any other losses for Very Aggressive Genji
And
as
yeah,
they kept this point early.
and it looks
and-
like Very Aggressive Genji able to just continually, after fight, just frag out and make sure that the weakest links of Winstony Baloney are just taken away.
Yeah, Thor's setting up on this high ground here. Going to be looking for some kind of a drop as we see Evelite going in for a poke on the long flank while his team's getting into position. As we see them marching on in behind this Reinhardt shield, but Thor going for the drop in the backline. Drops a nice bubble back there, looking to put just some harassment down. He hasn't taken a whole lot of damage yet, and he has just completely collapsed all of these lines for the enemy team before going down, but he managed to get scotched before doing so.
And it looks like coming out of
Oh,
Silver Side, but an attack advisor coming out for Chromatic, make sure no one can actually get in. As Jim starts charging and see if he can get anyone. Unable to get anyone, but it looks like a nice Tranquility, just going to be able to keep everyone on the point healthy, as the 2 DPS are just going to try to do what they can. A failed Pulse Bomb off of 30, unable to get really anyone, as the rest of the team of Very Aggressive Genji are able to just kind of regroup and stay on the point, as they're going to be able to just stay.
That was a
even-
really awkward fight coming out of Very Aggressive Genji. They had such a great play by Thor to start things off there, and then they were kind of split between the dive them super hard and like force them into a choke mentality and the just stay back and hold the point. Yet despite kind of tactically bad on that fight, it doesn't matter because Thor going into the backline doing the same thing. Immediately forces a save res out of Scotch to save his own life there, but a great Reaper ult coming out of Think Twice, puts down a ton of damage. Gonna be a man advantage again for Very Aggressive Genji as they're
but someone
pretty
needs
far
to get
off
to
this
the
point.
point.
But
Scotch with
Evelite gets a bunch of kills coming in here, but a nice 3-man res out of Crystallize. Chromatic's trying to buy time on this point. Now here comes the Winston ult out of Thor, getting onto this point. Man advantage once again for Very Aggressive Genji.
Making sure that they stay on this point as they're still fighting. And it looks like very Aggressive Genji does get rooted. But Crystallize trying to see if he can troll around to say like, oh hey, I might have an ult, but he's already used it. And it looks like when Stony Baloney is able to hold on to this point, but just barely after the 99% take of very aggressive Genji.
Yeah, good plays out of Winstony there on this retake, but
very nice use of both or the support ult of your Pendry, or not your Pendry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Wile E. Coyote on the Zenyatta.
Andy Mike. Anyway, so we've got Andy Mike. Andy Mike! Ah!
I can't do anything. I unplugged it.
You gotta unplug it faster.
Connection ongoing.
So we see Thor getting picked off by a pulse bomb nice and early here. Good pick for Winstony.
Stony
There we
coming
go.
in.
Jim dropping down the hammer. They've already gotten 2, but no one there to follow up on the big old Reinhardt. They do get crystallized for their troubles.
It looks like your Pendry gonna get a nice tranquility to keep everyone alive. Think Twice is going super hard up in the front lines to try to see if we can get any work done. They're able to get in the back line, making sure that the Winston is staying down. No more monkey business for Thor. As a nice ultimate coming out of Think Twice, able to get as many as he can. And it looks like very aggressive Genji gonna be able to just route out the entirety of Sony Baloney.
Don't know how Think Twice was able to get that ult like that. He was in the middle of an entire team and just no one shot him in time. And that turns into a game-winning play here as we see very aggressive Genji now up 2-0. And if you're with Stony Baloney, you gotta start to panic.
I mean, that can't... Man, that has to just be very, very demoralizing. Especially, they're already 2-0. And,
you know, there's a
0-2.
chance that when Stony Baloney wasn't even taking this match seriously, they might have honestly thought going into this like, hey, you know, these guys just look good because they were playing against you in the finals without hook resets last week. But we saw this team in the regular season. They did not finish the season hot. We're not worried about this at all. We're already planning for Wang Zheng Tower. And clearly very aggressive Genji was a team that needed to be taken seriously in these playoffs, as they are about to, if they can take this map here, take a 2-0 lead. Put Winstony Baloney in that reverse sweep territory. As we see Evelite switching over to the Genji. Pick we've seen him bust out a few times this season to very varying degrees of success. So going to be a lot of pressure on him to be the catalyst this map.
But if we want to see it work, you're going to have to see Jim and Evolite working together to try to get it back. But it looks like Jim's already getting picked up, unable to get any value.
Andy Mike.
Oh, God damn it. Alright, I'm plugging.
Alright, so we do see a push forward coming out of very aggressive Genji here. They force Winstony off of the point there at the tail end. But Winstony Baloney coming straight in for a retake as 30 gets 2 picks nice and quick here. They trade Treemeister for the trouble. But looking good for Winstony. Danko and Crystallize now going down on the other side of the fight. Just a big fight coming out of 30. He's laying down a ton of DPS, and that's gonna turn into a recap for Winstony. We're not gonna just roll over and die here. They're pushing deep, getting some more picks, stalling out more time here. And putting themselves up in a great position on ults going into this next fight where they will probably have 4 available by the time the fight happens. And it's doing it again.
Still doing it?
Yeah. Alright, so while we give him a chance to troubleshoot that. Going to this next fight here, we finally have very aggressive Genji. Has all their teammates alive and regrouped. They do have both the support ults available, about to have chromatics as well, but an ult advantage still for the opposing team. As Josh Jacob goes down early, and that's going to buy out some more time. And now a nice engage coming out. The Dragon Blade going deep. We see some panic ulting coming out of very aggressive Genji as they split from the ulting Genji. Don't utilize that Transcendence super well, and 2 picks very quick. 430 again, just playing out of his mind on this map. Does not want to go down without a fight. But that is all ults used by Winstony Baloney, as they're now starting to fall back to this point. They traded Evolite for Think Twice. As we see very aggressive Genji slowly pushing this line back forward. Josh Danko switched over to the Pharah. One of the Josh Danko specials we've been seeing all split long. We see just the poke phase kind of going down as Jim's going to pop the Winston ult. He goes very deep, but not coordinated with his team there. Flows through all 1,000 health in the blink of an eye, and now we've got a man advantage for very aggressive Genji as they're pushing on at this point. Think twice, trying to drop a big Reaper ult, but he only finds Scotch before going down. This D.Va ult's gonna blow people off of the point, but not really accomplish much from Treemeister. But we do still see Winstoni Baloney falling off this point. They give up 2/3 of the circle before we see this map go into overtime. Danko dies, gets rezzed, then dies again in the flash. 30 going down for Winstoni Baloney though. Both of these teams missing multiple members as we see the Tranquility buying time for very aggressive Genji to get back to this point. But a lot of purple health bars there as we see anyone trying to put out damage, but it's just a D.Va and a Winston. Not good for blowing through opposing tanks. Think Twice finally goes down, but a lot of time has been bought here. Chromatic and Danko, though, looking to get some kills. They take out Treemeister. Now Thor tossing his D.Va ult up into the air. He gets Everlight and Scott. Those could be huge game-defining picks here for very aggressive Genji, and they get the retake. This map not over yet. We gotta see actually Chromatic go take the pick onto 30 here before we get a chance to catch our breath. That should buy a lot of time here. Looking at ult economy, this is going to be in the favor of Winstoni Baloney a bit, but nothing substantial. The Genji ult and the Winston ults both available to go for a dive play here, but not necessarily anything to combo with them. A lot of pressure going to be on Avalites to make a huge play going into this fight, as I assume him and Jim are going to be looking for a deep dive to start things off here, as they have now pushed their way into this fight. They're going to have to go through this Think Twice shield eventually. As watch, Everlight is set up on the indoor flank right now, trying to make sure his team feels confidence. And there we go, the Winston gonna start things off here as they knock Think Twice off the point to begin. Winstoni Baloney established on the point as the Dragon Blade going very, very deep. A pick for Everlight as Barrel ult comes out of Josh Danko, does not find anything. Everlight goes down after getting a solo pick though. Crystallize going to top the res onto your Pendrive, but we see a lot of very aggressive Genji members going down here as they are really falling back. Your Pendrive popping the Transcendence, trying to buy time as both healers go down for very aggressive Genji, but Think Twice does get a hammer drop, only knocks down 2, as now the D.Va ult coming out of Thor, gonna take out Treemeister, but is, oh no, it's gonna be a last second stall here from Chromatic, but that's not gonna be enough. We see Josh Danko coming in from the side of this point, but he's not going to be able to hold that point by himself. And that's going to be a win for Winstoni Baloney, as they are starting to pull things back here. But that was very close. Still no leeway for Winstoni to work with. As we head back onto the lighthouse where very aggressive Genji looked so good earlier. Yeah, if you'd like, that'd probably be best.
Alright, I will attempt to help Swift out here.
Alright, we're going to pull in Tree for a guest verse. I hope it goes better than the last time I pulled Tree in for a guest verse. As we're going to see, it's looking like the same story, mostly coming out of Winstoni Baloney. Although 30 switching over to the Reaper, not something he's played a lot, but he's been very successful when he has played it all split long. And that should give this Winstoni Baloney comp a pretty different flavor than the last time they were on Lighthouse.
User disconnected from your channel.
As we see, they do establish onto the point first. But we've got Thor kind of coming in. No one noticed him coming in there on the flank as he's setting up a bit of a window for his team to come in here. But he's got to jump out pretty early. And it's looking like it's going to just be the 6v6 cap.
Yeah, Vag just kind of gave that up.
Yeah, that was really badly played out of very aggressive Genji. But they are in position to at least fight right away for this retake, and they're now doing so. Pushing their way onto this point. They find the pick onto Scotch to start things off, and we're seeing Winstoni Baloney getting really funneled into one position here, and just one at a time, the easy aim for very aggressive Genji. They're going to just take out all of Winstoni Baloney without really having to struggle for it. And so they'll get this cap 0 to 25
Yeah, all
as
things
the point
considered,
starts ticking up.
a pretty quick retake, and they've got 3 ults to show for it too.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of ults super close there for Winstone Baloney either. This might just be a throwaway fight for them. 30's pretty smart. I wouldn't be surprised if he calls that. By the way, he has switched back to the McCree, as we now see 5 ults available for very aggressive Genji, as they're pushing very aggressively here. And they are giving up Think Twice for their troubles, but they get Scotch on the tail end. Seiko looking for anything with the high noon, but does not find it. But Evelite did make it on this point, and he's kind of broken the line here for very aggressive Genji. Evelite gets the kill on a Danko, and now the Nano Boost coming out. 30 is down, though, so that could be pretty big. Everyone tied on both teams as Crystallize comes in with a really huge res. Evelite looking for a play of the game here, but does not find anyone. Nice rockets coming out of Chromatic. Gotch dropping the sound barrier, maybe a little late here, but it's looking like they're pushing very aggressive Genji off. Jim with 2 kills with the Winston ult. Coming up big for his team. That's going to be a retake for Winstone.
Yeah, they did buy a lot of time fighting on that point, though, over 50%.
Yeah, this is looking like a real back and forth King of the Hill game, which we haven't seen a whole lot of yet. As neither team going to have substantial ulting available going into this next fight. Going to be at most, I think, 2 for any of these teams, depending on how things play leading into the fight. So we see Think Twice. Somebody's got to tell him that the Reaper poke isn't very effective, because he seems to be trying this play a lot as he's pushing his way forward on the point. Not really being shot, dropping the Reaper ult a bit far forward. Most of that going to be ate by the D.Va, but Thor picks up 2 kills on the other side of the fight, so the distraction might have been enough on a Think Twice, as the D.Va ult gonna buy some time here for Winstone, but they need more than time, they need kills. As Winstone's just not finding any picks for the trouble here. Your Pendry popping a pretty late Transcendence there. Probably didn't need to, but regardless, point captured for very aggressive Genji.
Yeah, teams definitely, I should say Winstone definitely figured something out. They're actually showing up now to these fights.
Yeah, and if they get one more cap, they're going to be in a really good position to take this map outright, but probably only going to be one substantial fight left here as we see them coming through the high ground as a unit. There are a lot of ults available on both teams going into this fight. As we see the Lucio ult gonna lead the way out of Scotch. High Noon coming out of Danko. Gonna find Evelite before he gets the chance to charge up a Dragon Blade. That could be a big pick, as Wile E. Coyote going down as well. 30 looking for something with his Deadeye. He's going to take out Danko, but I think they needed more picks than that as Chromatic takes out 30 at the end of this. Both these monkeys just smacking their dicks into each other right now. As we do see Crystallize on the point. He has a res available as well, and he's not going to need it. Looking like this is going to time out as Evelite gets onto this point. He's dropping the Dragon Blade, looking for a big play, but Think Twice says, I'm not going to risk aiming for you. Let's just take you out the easy way. 30 does not make it on the point, and a 3-1 victory going over to very aggressive Genji to take a 2-0 lead in the semifinal. Wow.
Yeah, that's not what I was expecting when tonight started.
Yeah, play of the game, gonna go over to Josh Danko with that fantastic map-winning Deadeye here on the well. And watch, it's high noon somewhere. Gets 3 kills with the ult, a few more with his fragging, and then, unfortunately, we're not gonna watch 30 jump into the well at the end there. But, overall, a really clean King of the Hill round coming out a very aggressive Genji. And I think with our technical issues, we are going to pull in Albino Joe here to help cast going into this next game.
What up?
So, Utek, we appreciate your sacrifice in the name of the Lord. We hope your soul can find peace in the afterlife. Amen.
I like mythology.
I need a drink after that solo cast. BRB.
Well, I'm assuming we're still streaming, so I need to fill this air. I actually just got done cleaning my car, but it looks like, looking at the screen, very aggressive Genji is 2 up on Winstone. Oh my god, what am I looking at right now? Okay, so we got a 0-win Winstone against a 2-win very aggressive Genji. Something I did not expect to walk into. It seems like very aggressive Genji is steamrolling somehow, cause they 2-0'd C in the final, or 3-0'd, sorry. Well, 3-1, whatever you want to call it. 3-0'd C in the finals, and now they're on path to 3-0 Winstone Baloney?
Yeah, like I was kind of saying during that last map, there's a good chance that when Stony Baloney, they never imagined this could happen.
What the
And,
hell's happening, Swift? Fill us in!
well, early in this season, very aggressive Genji looked like a very good team, and then the floor just kind of fell out underneath them. I don't know how they got from where they were at the start to where they were in the middle of the season, but it looks like they figured out a way to dial it back. And fortunately for them, they're sticking with King of the Hill, which Winstone Baloney has been very reliant on all season. And this could kind of bite them because most of the time we see when teams play badly on one King of the Hill map, they play badly on every King of the Hill map. And there's going to have to be something substantial that changes out of Winstone Baloney to take Nepal here. And Winstone, they're not a team that we really see make substantial changes from map to map. They already throw substantial changes out from round to round. So I don't know what they can have that we didn't see from them on Ilios that's going to help them take Nepal. And I'm very worried for them in this series.
Yeah, and it's starting on the temple here, which is a very corridory, skirmishy type map, and I know that typically 30 can deal with that very well. But also the Genji, specifically coming out of Thor here.
He's not going to keep that. They're just trolling while they have the hover.
Oh, for a second I thought the map actually started. Now it's starting in 5. Whoops.
I got baited by that too. Don't worry. But we do see. Nope. Everyone's switching off at the end, so we're seeing a very standardized comp coming out of both these teams. Actually, Evelite playing Soldier, not something we see a ton of. Maybe preempting for ain't going to be on the Vera, but instead it's going to be a counter double hit scan. Actually, a triple DPS solo tank coming out of very aggressive Genji. Something we've seen them run well a few times.
Do you think that's an actual tactic, or do you think they're getting cocky?
We'll see. Maybe the first DPS gets to switch to the tank. That's how they pick. As Think Twice was on the deep flank there, goes down early, but he did buy his team time to get in position. They take 2 kills on this point. As we now see a 4v4 mostly in this bottom room here. But attack visor coming out very fast. Chromatic uncontested up on the ledge. Oh no, forces Winstone Baloney into that point. And, somebody give me that Crystallizer jump. Oh no, that was embarrassing.
It's
a great situation for Vag, but they lose both their healers partially to Crystallizer's misplay. And now Winstone Baloney is here to go for a retake that should have never been available. Jim has to come in and look for something, and he's getting it. Thor tries to stall out with his monkey ult, but barring a 5-man knockoff, I don't think he's holding this point. Crystallize does make it back from the grave with a res. He brings 2 back up. And that actually could have been huge, because now Evelyn, Jim, and Scotch all going down right after. And what looked like a disaster for a moment going to be averted by Vag.
Yeah, in a very, very long time, for a very long time at the start of that fight, when Stoney had 3 man in that little cubby hole down at the bottom, and they weren't doing anything. They weren't able to actually push out and get onto the point, which it's kind of interesting and embarrassing at the same time when, you got 3 people so close to the point, but you still kind of let them cap. And very aggressive Genji kept them in there and did just that.
Very aggressive Genji had them stuck in there, and they couldn't go in there and execute them. It was, they were like trapped in a prison, and then they just kind of walked out. It felt like.
Looks like here comes the ball of death with Evelate the first to go down. A lot of damage coming from Winstone as well.
A big Deadeye on a 30.
3 people down on the other team. Very aggressive Genji's in hurting unit right now with only Chromatic up at this point, and he's not going to be able to really do much as he runs away and groups up with the rest of his team.
Yeah, really good engage coming out of Winstone there. As they did not have a whole lot of time left to work with.
Yeah, and they have to keep this. I mean, if very aggressive Genji should cap the point, they have kind of a half-ass push, maybe a decent push, depending on what the deaths are like. to kind of take it. But it looks like
Yeah,
very aggressive Genji is pushing back right now from the little cubby, deciding to go the other way and not the way where the people are, and kind of having free reign a little bit on the point, at least shooting it. But it looks like
big. They get a pick on a Chromatic.
Chromatic.
Oh, Chromatic and 30 both go down. Not the story we're used to telling at the start of these fights. As this fight is making its way to the point, Mercy taking a nap down the points. I was maybe in a little too deep there, trying to save somebody. As we see Think Twice dropping the Reaper ult mostly in that Winston bubble as D-Ball gets chucked in by Treemeister. Gonna pick up one. Your pen dry is now Danko picking up Jim. A Deadeye coming out of Danko off of that kill. He gets another kill and looking like it's gonna be a retake here. 30 coming in, trying to drop his Deadeye, but it's him and Scotch actually doing some work, but I don't think it's gonna be enough. They die late, but they should be able to get to this point in time for the last fight of the game. There are some big ults available though. Chromatic with the Soldier ults, Crystallize with the Resurrect. As 30 switching over to the Widowmaker for the ultimate fight on this map.
Yeah, that's a desperation pick, I feel like, but they do have the Ana ult, which hopefully can do something for Wile E. Coyote, but they're pushing now with
Oh,
Jim
but it
front
works!
line.
30 goes in, he immediately takes out Chromatic. That is a Soldier 76 ult off the best player on the enemy team. Now 30 finding more picks. He gets 3 picks off of that Widow pick, and a retake comes out for Winstony.
Beautiful cap, fucking beautiful cap from Winstony here, but they have to take it as Danko jumps to his death to regroup with the team. Smart idea there, but they have only one push really, and with a crystallized res and a chromatic Soldier 76 ultimate.
Fortunately for them, that's 2 more ults than on the other team. They're close on Thor's Monkey ult as well. The only ult available could be a Nano Boost with nothing to really combo it with for Winstony. So there's still a decent opportunity for very aggressive Genji as they're jumping up onto the high ground here, looking to establish themselves behind Winstony Baloney, just putting damage down, but they don't have long before they gotta get on the points. Thor knows that. He jumps on. He brings Crystallize with him. But Crystallize, you may be wanting to stay with the rest of your team. That monkey can fend for himself for a while. As Crystallize goes down here, that will not be a res available as both healers are down for very aggressive Genji. They're losing Think Twice in the process. 30 finding shots on the Chromatic. Danko looking for a miracle and not gonna get it.
Beautiful pushback from Treemeister here as Thor is trying to stall out a little bit with Mad Monkey. Maybe he might be able to stall a little bit for the crystallized res to come in to stall a little bit more, but not quite.
Yeah, a huge Widowmaker switch out of 30 there saves the game as they take the 1-0 lead here on Nepal, and just a really badly executed last fight there out of very aggressive Genji. I don't know, that was 2 times we saw that happen where Crystallized kind of jumped out of the point with the tank that could fend for themselves and ends up going down way early, just not playing with the respect of his own res that you need to have as a Mercy player. And it cost them that round because they had such a great situation going into that. That was a really big mistake, badly executed team fight out of very aggressive Genji.
Yeah, if there's one thing you need to learn from playing a Mercy, it's never follow Winston in unless you know you're going to live. And that was a time when all 6 on the other team, that's a time when you know you're not going to live. But coming out of the gate here, Chromatic switched to this Tracer pick along with 30, so we got a little bit of a Tracer.
This is going to be
battle
exciting.
here.
Yeah, those two, along with Chromatic losing out on the Tracer battle early. Not to the Tracer, but to some Evolite Rockets. Great start for Winstony as they establish out of this point.
Yeah, he's proven he could play something other than the Pharaoh, which is good, but the fight here is commencing as they're capping. Winstony's capping fairly uncontested here. They're trying to get into through the front gate. Thor peeking in with the little bug zapper, but there's really not a lot going on as Winstony just caps the point.
Yeah, awkward fight for Badge as Chromatic was there down the hallway on Soldier, ready to shoot some support in, as now he's solo trying to cap this point, and he can just kind of casually walk off, it looks like, getting chased by the Diva. As Jim gonna go down on the other side of this fight to think twice. And now 30 down as well. That's the best 2 players on Winstony down. So we see Badge immediately. Thor jumping onto this point. They take Scotch out. They take Evolite out. And this should be a cap for free.
They felt like dominoes. 1 pick turned into 2 with Jim and 30 going down, into 3 with Scotch with the Evolite going down next, and it was all dominoes from there. Great fight from very aggressive Genji.
Yeah, and now it's looking like they probably could have taken that contest, not even given up that 34%, but hey, 34%, that ain't gonna lose you a map.
Alt
Now we see
Economy going to very
Winstoni.
aggressive Genji here too.
Oh, jeez, yeah, that's a lot of ults available. As Chromatic now going to get the 6th for his team. Transcendence coming out of your pen drive, trying to match Avalite's Tack Visor. As we see a D-Vault coming in. I don't know if everyone caught it, but no, everyone will end up dodging it. You see a 1-for-1 early in this fight. Keep an eye on Crystallize with the res available if he wants to bring Danko up. As Thor making a huge play with this Winston ultimate. As not all the ults are going to even be required on a very aggressive Genji, as they mostly wiped Winstoni Baloney off the map here. Still sitting on 3 of their 6 ults.
Yeah, I think the big thing there was the pen dry Trank, or Trans I should say, that kind of kept everyone up, and then Thor doing a lot of work as Mad Monkey there.
Yeah, really good transcendence out of your pen drive there. Completely neutralized Evilites. And it's looking like we're going for a fast play here out of Winstoni. But think twice, clearing the area in the back, put in his foot down on that. Chromatic also tossing out the Tack Visor. Still going to have a res available here, as we're now going into only 1 fight remaining. As Treevice, they're swapping onto the Roadhog. I didn't catch that until just now. And the only ult available going to be the fast charging Pulse Bomb for 30 that he has to probably find Crystallize with here. Unless he can find multiple kills somewhere else. As Healer's gonna get traded to start here. And now Jim down as well. But it's a 2-for-2 with Danko going down on the enemy team. And just one trade after another. Crystallize now going down before he can find a res yet again. But a man advantage in the favor of very aggressive Genji to take out 30 Evelite. Now that's Wily Coyote, the last man down. As a Monkey going for a push here. And we're going to see Nepal evened up 1-to-1 by very aggressive Genji.
Yeah, and just the way that those fights started to unfold, it looked like Winstoni was kind of reaching for something they couldn't get. They did a lot of fast pushes, kind of sloppy. You know, the think twice Chromatic, Beyblade, and you know, sights. You can't really do much against that. But everything after that just seemed very, very sloppy and not together. I wonder if they're intimidated, or if the nerves are getting to them. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I really don't think they expected to see a serious challenge this week, and they've seen more than a serious challenge.
You know, maybe very aggressive Genji has been, you know, laying in the weeds, kind of playing it like they are bad, but they're not. Who knows? This is very strange.
I don't think anyone was trolling regular season games away, but they clearly did pick something up out of their losing streak as we head on to Indoor Housey Wowsy here. Evelite switching back over to that Genji. Gonna be the big swap for this map, as now both teams dropping down onto the points. We see Jim going in there, gets the first pick of the map here, and maybe forced very aggressive Genji off the point entirely in this 5v6. And yep, it's going to be a cap for Winstoni.
Very good cap, but it looks like there's not a lot going on fighting-wise. I mean, there are a lot of people going down on very aggressive Genji's side. I take that back. With Danko, Pen Dry, and Crystallized down, it's 3v5, 3v6. I don't even know, but the numbers are in Winstoni's favor, and they take that very, very handily.
Yeah, they get a lot of kills out of that. That's a lot of ult charge coming out for Winstoni Baloney here, as they're trying to sniff out where this next engage is going to come from.
Yeah, they're taking the high ground, which is a very, very smart strat for this map in particular, so you can always drop down later, but I don't know, very aggressive Genji is a little scattered here with Zarya on the high ground Chromatic, and everyone else kind of going for the point. Very, very poorly, as Think Twice is the first to go down to Adelaide's Genji. Very, very interesting to see that as well, but a lot of people dying on very aggressive Genji's side as the hammer down comes from Jim Bone the Man.
Yeah, that felt like there were maybe a few too many ults blown there by Winstoni Baloney, and that to me is a sign that they're rattled. They've normally had very good discipline with their ults. I don't know why they popped 3 ults after they had already secured 3 kills in that fight, as they now still in an okay place in ult economy here. They've got Lucy, they got both the support ults going into this next fight, but we see a lot of ults are close for very aggressive Genji, but they immediately lose Josh Danko. That is not going to be good, as this was a fight they really had to win.
Yeah, Thor trying to distract on point for a little bit, but he's running back, kind of like a little wuss. But he is now still living, still trying to bug zap people as people are dying on his team left and right. But it looks like when Stoney is going to be the one who starts losing this fight. As Crystallized pops the res on Chromatic, and there's Tranks going down. A lot of.
Jim finds 2 big kills though.
Oh
As
my
we see
God.
Josh Danko coming in from outside the point, looking for it, but Avalite reflects the Deadeye back at him. Oh, this could have been a huge play from Avalite on the Genji. As it's now just Thor on the point that he finally is going to fall. Think twice, trying to clear the area, but once again, a reflect on the ult, and it's going to be a 2-1 lead taken by Winstoni Baloney in a fight that was looking really bad for a moment there. A few individual players making heroic plays there to hold that point.
You know, Danko, you kind of control when your Deadeye shoots.
Oh, that seemed like it was a really good reflex play out of Evelite. He popped that reflect at the last possible moments.
Beautiful. Damn. When Stoney showing that they have enough life to last the next 3 games, maybe?
Now, they should probably focus on this one map at a time here, as they are at least in control for the first time in a while, as we head back onto the Weeb Hut.
Something to note very quickly, 30 and Chromatics getting off of Tracers, each of them onto Soldiers, which I like that pick on this map in particular. We'll see if Winstoni can cap the point.
Yeah, and
Like they did
also
last time, where they're just going to be kind of in their face with not a lot going on. They just kind of take the point, create the space, and say, this is our home. As now, they're all on the point, but very aggressive Genji does contest on the side here.
Oh, Jim with a
Jim
nice pin
fucking
onto
plows
Thor.
into the elephant butt, and it looks like Think Twice is kind of trying to get in there with some shots, but they can't really do anything. As Winstoni caps this and kind of holds it.
Yeah, once again, just some bad positioning coming out of very aggressive Genji. These teams are putting themselves in a position where they have to commit to the fight, and then just falling out entirely after losing a single member, but dying on the retreats, giving up ult charge for free. And we see Thor on this Reinhardt, not a pick very aggressive Genji, has played around a lot this season, and not a very effective first fight around Thor's Reinhardt there.
Yeah, and also Think Twice switched off of his Reaver onto a Winston. As,
This
he
is weird.
resets his ult, so now it seems like they're going to traditional 2-2-2 comp.
Yeah, with their best 2 players playing the 2 DPS, but Chromatic going down very early, 230. As we see Scotch dropping the beat, needs to find some space for his team to work with here as they get your pen drive before he's able to get a transcendence off. Thor goes down as well. This should be another big one fight for Winstoni Baloney.
And they're really claiming that house. They can't. Very aggressive Genji is having a really hard time even getting in there, it seems. All the fighting is kind of happening on the sides and not inside of the hut.
Yeah, we're not used to seeing this. You know, no dive tanks. Ooh, Fat Finger Tranquility coming out of Wile E. Coyote. That could hurt them going into this next fight.
Womp womp.
As this will probably be the final fight for very aggressive Genji if they do not get a team fight win here. They do have a lot of ults available as they're making their way onto this point. Thor a few percentage away from being able to drop the hammer. The only ult they reasonably won't get is probably the monkey ult, but oh, Chromatic going down to 30 before you get attack visor off. That could have been a map-winning fight here. As now Crystallize is down as well. There's no res available. Danko looking for the hero play, but it's a 3-for-1 in favor of Winstoni Baloney. And looking like this is going to be a map win as no one is even able to get onto the point there. And Winstoni Baloney gonna take Nepal to what I just think were some very strange hero picks out of very aggressive Genji. But they played well all across the map, and the play of the game gonna be 30 here on the McCree. And
Oh, wow.
just kind of standard affair from 30, you know, find a few kills with the Deadeye, find a few more kills after. Takes out almost the entire team by himself over the course of that one.
He fucking Rambo'd that shit. He got like 3 people right away and then just like killed another 2 and then like the 6th guy was gonna fucking die right away. God, that's nasty.
I was actually really hoping that play of the game would have been the Widowmaker swap.
Oh, God.
But I think that was a little too spread out. Make play of the game cut off.
Hey, something I kind of noticed here. Very aggressive Genji. Chromatic is constantly trying to be on the flank. He was doing that as Zarya, and he was trying to do that as Soldier there. And every time it seems like he's getting picked off. I don't know if when Stoney's starting to see that and take advantage of it, because they did every time it happened.
Yeah,
Kind of a
maybe it wasn't working there. We'll see. We've seen a lot of different variances on the very aggressive Genji comp over the course of the night. So, fortunately for them, they still have a lot of leverage to work with here. And they're going to get to pick a map for the first time as well. So, I don't think we're going back to King of the Hill after how they dominated on the first payload map they played tonight. But we'll see. We might have a moment before bans come out here. But when Sony Baloney finally showing signs of life, so we at least have a series on our hands after it was looking bleak when we were done with Ilios.
okay. Well, as we eagerly await bans here, let's I don't know. I'm still in shock. I don't know. I didn't expect very aggressive Genji to get this far, and I think they're just proving all the doubters wrong. In a beautiful, beautiful way.
Yeah, they got to be pretty happy with where they're at right now, but obviously this is not the end goal.
You know, it's very interesting to look at these two teams' experience. You know, you have 30 and Jim kind of, with the multiple star levels, and the rest of the team of Winstony with a single star, while very aggressive Genji, they have a silver player, along with Chromatic on 3 and Pendry on 2. That's a lot of skill discrepancies within the very aggressive Genji's team, and it makes me wonder if the floor, with Thor, Crystallize, maybe even Think Twice, maybe Pendry, I don't know about him, but if that floor has just risen so much.
Yeah, that's definitely been a storyline for this team all season. When their bottom three have played bad, it's been very, very bad. But when your players are some of the worst in the league, that also usually means it's the easiest for them to take a substantial step forward. Um, I mean, I haven't been keeping track of player levels specifically between where we were at the end of the season and now. There's a chance that maybe these guys have just been practicing a decent amount for playoffs, and that turned into a huge gap for this team because, particularly Chromatic and Danko, when they're on their game, they're probably two of the best four players in the whole league. They don't need that much out of their teammates for very aggressive Genji to be stealing maps from people. And when they were on their winning streak earlier in the season, that's what we saw, and we're kind of back to that point. As we're going to see all of the two capture point maps getting banned by Winstone Baloney. Pretty standard affair for them.
Yeah,
So,
two CP is a little bit risky, especially when you're not too sure on how you're going to be doing for these maps. Those can snowball very quickly. And very aggressive Genji taking their time and thinking.
let's not give them that much credit. They're probably just got somebody AFK.
Yeah, or that. I mean, if this is going to go to game 5, people are going to need bathroom breaks.
All right, and looks like we're going over to a very aggressive Genji special, a BOL special. King's Row gonna be the next map here.
Yeah, Kings Row seems like a staple for this whole entire league. I believe there's a lot of teams that like this map. And really, I don't know why. I personally am not the biggest fan, but a lot of people like it.
Yeah, there's a good chance this was the most played map over the course of the entire season.
I mean, there's plenty of corridors to, go in and out of. There's a lot of open sky for Pharahs or snipers like Widows.
And it's funny because it's not like this is the most played game mode. I don't know if we've seen Hollywood more than once all season. We've only seen Eichenwald a handful of times. If people want to play hybrid, it is specifically King's Row, and that's been a constant for all the teams.
Yeah, I think it just has everything that everyone likes, But I will hold my tongue as each team picks their characters and trolls the fuck out of me. But I think it's safe to say that Jim will be playing that Reinhardt on defense, pretty standard with 30 sitting behind him in the shield. And Scotch on the Mercy's not a bad pick either.
Yeah, we do see Wile E. Coyote going for the Symmetra. Kind of a staple on this map. Treemeister swapping around, but gonna pick Roadhog with 35 seconds to go, and Avalite taking the Reaper. So some really late decision making coming out of Winstone Baloney there, but shouldn't really affect them. They'll get to the point in time.
Yeah, they're still flip flopping. Avalite is on Soldier now, and 30's on McCree. And again, I mean, I'm a Roadhog hater, dude. He's not a character anymore, Treemeister. Good luck, everyone.
30 is the biggest hero hater I've ever known, and if he's given this the okay, I'm fine with it. I really like it on this map, specifically on defense. I think there's a lot of good angles you can play around, especially comboed with the Symmetra. But there will be a lot of pressure here as we watch Chromatic to see if he's just going for the opening snipe or if he's going to stick with the Widowmaker. I'm thinking it's the former, as we see a pretty far back hold coming out of Winstone Baloney here. And there we go, Genji being picked by Chromatic. Finally seeing this team go back to their namesake, although they're going to lose Thor in the process. I think twice as well. They do get what could be a big pick on a 30 there, though, with your Pendry making the shot from downtown. But they cook out a Danko. He's going to eat what he can and then go retreat up to the high ground. Just buying time for his team to capitalize on this 5v6 as 30 has a ways to go. And now Chromatic, very aggressive Genjing in the middle of the enemy team, but goes down quick. Not a great fight for Vag here, as 30 has now made it in.
Wiley dropping that teleporter so the team can get there fast, but they're still a hurting unit, but not nearly as much as they once were with Pendry popping that ult a little preemptively. I don't know for sure, but Thor bringing out the bug zapper, not getting anywhere with it. It seems like they're on the point at all angles here, and they're not doing much with it. As 3 people are dead on very aggressive Genji, with another couple of them at base. They're
yeah, that turned into a very long 3v6 on the points for very aggressive Genji. Just some bad game sense coming up there. That your Pendry Transcendence in particular was really, really not good, and they just bought a lot of time for a fight they didn't quite lose. They gave Winstone a chance to establish with their teleporter and their Ras, and now they have a lot of ult charge heading into this next fight. As Chromatic did switch off the Genji, was not feeling he's back on the Soldier 76. As Thor going in deep, doesn't take a whole lot of damage to his shoulder, but Jim gets onto the flank with the Reinhardt, drops a huge hammer, and 3 kills get traded for Jim's life. Chromatic going down, this should be a clean ace coming out for Winstone Baloney.
A lot of ults coming from their end now. They don't really have much except for Scotch's res coming up. As very aggressive Genji has excellent ult economy, with Think Twice probably going to have his Death Blossom for the next fight. I think this next push is very important for very aggressive Genji. If they don't take it here, they're not going to take it.
Well, fortunately for them, one more fight, they could blow through the rest of the teleporter charges if they have at least a decent fight, as we see D.Va ult coming in deep, and John Danko finds 3. Scotch cannot bring them all back to life, only getting 2, and 30 not among them. Now Jim, Wile E. Coyote, Treemeister, Everlight, all going down, and you asked for it, and you got it. Josh Danko with a major play we haven't seen out of him in a while. Going to turn into a cap here for very aggressive Genji.
Fucking brilliant with that Josh Danko ult to open up. Scotch had to use his res, which was good. 2 people out of the 3 was good enough for the team.
No, it was not
The
good
depth-
because they
the
did
depth
not
blossom.
get 30. When
30.
you are 30's teammate, you don't care about bringing anybody else on your team back from the grave but 30. And when you have 3 go down, you cannot miss your star carry with the Resurrect. A huge misplay out of Scotch there to bring back 2 other players.
Well, he was not with the team either. He was on the far side of it, which, you know, hard to get there. Maybe out of position. Who knows what happened? But that cleanup with the Death Blossom at the end there for the Big Twice was fucking beautiful as well.
And now they get through half of the streets phase. They do not have to go contested through the first jump. You see Evelite up on some high ground looking for a tactical visor. Tranquility comes out of your pen dry to match this here as we see the team just kind of stand in each other's face here in the street. Now Thor wants to break the line, but he goes down very fast to the Symmetra Death Branch. And it's looking like a pushback being successful here for Winstoni Baloney.
A lot of damage going down, but not many people dying as Chromatic does end up falling to a Evolite rocket. He's been on point with those rockets. They've been really, really good this game. And a lot of ults are had on very aggressive Genji's team, with Scotch being the only one with an ult on the Mercy Resurrection here. They are holding. Josh Danko throws another bomb in, and no one can do shit about it. Gets 3 again, and Scotch is dead with no resurrection possible here as the team is falling right away after that. Evolite being the last one.
Why has Josh Danko stopped picking D.Va? Early in the season, this guy was tossing out the kind of D.Va you had to go to Korea to see, and for some reason, very aggressive Genji just stopped playing it. Clearly, he has not lost it with 6 kills in the last 2 ults. Solo responsible for both of these points being captured for very aggressive Genji, and he has made sure that his team still has ults available heading into the indoor warehouse phase here on King's Row. Fantastic play out of Danko. As now we see Think Twice going up on the high ground. He has Death Blossom available. No one knows he's there, but no, they find him fast enough. Now a Graviton Surge comes out of Treemeister. Jim drops the hammer into the Graviton in a great fight coming out of Winstoni Baloney there to finally stop this cart. But they blew a lot of ults for it.
Yeah, and that really stopped the bleeding, though. It might have been worth it to drop all those ults, as Think Twice had a very, very scary positioning there that could have ended their team, but when Stoney was able to identify it and react accordingly.
Yeah, I think it was worth those ults as well, as they're only sitting down 1 ult in the scheme of things right now. And that ult's, you know, or with the Winston ult, not the most impactful ults in the game, as he's going to go down before he even gets a chance to pop it. Well, the cart is getting inched forward here by Badge regardless. There's really no pressure being put down on the Chromatic here up on this ledge. Thor now almost back to the fight. I wouldn't be surprised if we see very aggressive Genji immediately go for this fight when they up their tanks. As we see once again, Josh Danko tosses the ult. Are you kidding me? Scott immediately has to blow the res though. But we see now Thor and Danko in this backline. They are moving this cart forward. Tranquility comes out of Wile E. Coyote here, stalling things out for his team. As we see both of the tanks go down for Winstoni Baloney. Now a tactical visor coming out of Chromatic. This is looking good, and that's going to be a team kill for very aggressive Genji, but that won't get them all the way to the end. 30 switching onto the Mei, going for stall tactics here. Watch out though, Crystallize does have a res available for Badge as they're pushing into this last fight. As we see Jim comes charging out of spawn just to immediately die. Not a great start here for Winstoni Baloney. They've only picked up Thor, although they do take out Danko's mech as well, but once again, another team kill coming out as Crystallize taking the savvy res at the end of the game. And goodness gracious, my God, where has this Josh Danko been?
Jeez, he has been on point with those fucking Dolan bombs. Dolan bombs getting 3s. You got a hat trick of 3 kills each ult. Oh my god.
Yeah, and after a really slow start here, a push all the way to the end of King's Row coming out of Badge, and now Winstone Bologna has to match just to keep their season alive.
Man, it's just good play from a lot of different players on each team too. I mean, I know Chromatic and Danko and 30 and Evolite are kind of the main names to talk about here, but other people have been showing up too. I think Twice has been having some good Death Blossoms. Scotch has been having some good reses. These teams are rounded out as fuck. Very aggressive Genji here, going with somewhat of a similar team comp that when Stoney had on the defense here with the Reinhardt, Soldier, Symmetra, but instead they are having a Diva instead of a Roadhog, and I don't remember what the last DPS was.
Yeah, there were some swaps over the course of that map, but I, once again, really like the Symmetra pick here. This first point on King's Row, obviously, is a pretty stereotypical Symmetra map. As we see Evolite swapping back over to the Pharah, which we haven't seen out of him. And oh, he like swapping the last second here. Going over to the Reaper, as there have really been a lot of Pharah answers all night from both of these teams.
Oh yeah.
We see a fast push coming out here from Winstone Bologna. They establish themselves inside the gates. Watch out if anyone steps inside the side building, as that is where a lot of the Symmetra death is set up.
Looks like a lot of fight happening on the upper ledge here as the very aggressive Genji's pushed out of it from Treemeister.
Yeah, Twice ends up deep there, and he goes down, the first casualty in this fight. Now Thor down as well. A great start for Winstone Bologna here, as they haven't had to fight around the Symmetra setup at all so far. And yeah, Crystallized, the Danko mech going down. Looking like this should be a cap for Winstone Bologna here.
Pretty clean here as Chromatic is one of the last ones to go down on the team for very aggressive Genji. Winstone able to assert their dominance pretty convincingly on this very first point, getting it within a minute.
Yeah, this is very good for morale for Winstone. They needed to start fast here because they have a long way to go on this map. And they can be feeling very good heading into the street space here. And your Pendry gonna opt for a shield generator. Now set up to defend his team in the streets.
Not a terrible idea when you're the only healer. Or when you only have one healer, I mean. But Winstone pushing the cart pretty convincingly here. Evolite popping out to get a couple of shotgun shots off as Think Twice is doing the same. Bug Zapper up front from Jim. Not really doing much. No one's dying, not a lot of damage is going down, but they're still pushing very convincingly here.
Yeah, they lose Danko's mech just in the process of stepping back. Genji probably needs to contest this sooner than later, as we see Think Twice coming in, finds two with his ult. Treemeister tossing his ult in, but doesn't find anything. Scotch has to res his buddies out here. And now we see more ults coming out of Winstone Bologna, getting kills, pushing this card forward. As we see Danko finally chucking an ult in. He gets Scotch. They can't all be threes.
Nope, that was his first one of the map here, then he got one. But Winstone is just pushing, and no one is really stopping him. The same boo.
Yeah, a few more picks coming down at the ends. They have pushed well past the shield generator, about to be refunded to your Pendry if he doesn't opt for a swap here. As we do get a contest 4 meters from the end of the street space here. As it looks like they're committed to this one. A nice big hammer coming out of Thor as they pick up 2 kills and a mech here. Looking like they do not want this map to be over yet. Your Pendry has swapped off the Symmetra onto the Zenyatta as well. A good call out of him.
In their darkest hour, Reinhardt the Grey shows up to tell everyone none shall pass. 4 meters away from the end, great ult.
Yeah, just huge play there. And now they have a very nice step here, although they are going pretty deep with it. As we see the retreat charge coming out of Thor on the Reinhardt there. Probably the proper play. We do have Chromatic with Attack Visor available, Crystallize with the Res as well. Although a lot of ults are very close for Winstone Baloney, so keep an eye on this as the fight breaks down. Wily Coyote
Defensive
has the
ults just
opportunity.
coming up.
Watch out, we do see Avalite looking for a flank play here as he has made it up on top of the backline. I'm not sure he's been noticed. Drops the Death Blossom and immediately finds 2. Great play out of Avalite as that's going to be 4 kills, 5 kills for Winstone Baloney. Going to get them deep into the warehouse here with 4 minutes to play and ults still available.
God, story of that fight was fucking, oh my god, Avalite's Death Blossom instantly keeping 2 people in the ass as the shield matrix doesn't get there in time. Josh Danko wasn't able to react quick enough to save his teammates.
Yeah,
But
now
he
we see
does
Tree
throw another
Meister.
self-destruct with 1 kill this time as Jim drops the Winston bubble, the classic counter to D-Vaults.
Still a big kill that stalls things out here, and it only took 1 ult, which gonna be a, you know, not a super easy ult to use here on defense. And they need to stall for every second they can get. As we see Winstone Baloney charging back in here, getting bodies onto the cart, and now we see Treemeister tossing his self-destruct out, going to pick up Crystallize, who did have the res available. As this card is still moving forward for Winstone Baloney, and now being stopped again by Badge.
And Danko is the one on the cart there with Think Twice chasing some people down. But it looks like a lot of people on Winstone are dying. Scotch
Big res on the
pick up
Scotch.
2 people dead, Josh Danko and Chromatic on the other team here. As Think Twice does another Death Blossom. And just
This is
a lot of
just
people
a
dead.
heavyweight boxing match right there, with 2 kills being traded in every direction, but at the end of it all, Badge does get the stop, and now they are sitting on phenomenal ult economy, sitting on 3, fairly close on 2 more, to only going to be a Death Blossom available for Evelites on the other side. And when Sony Baloney, again, they don't want to waste any time, but they need to make big plays if they're not just going for ult charge here. And their 1 ult immediately taken off the board. They lose Jim as well for good measure. Although Treemeister does get some damage dealt on the other side of this fight. And he is very deep. No one really engaging on him. As we see a rematch coming out for Danko, a D-Mech on Treemeister. Looking like a hold for Badge, who are now sitting on 5 of the 6 ults, but a lot of ults have been charged
Way too deep
for
for
Winstone Baloney. As we see Danko tossing the ult in. Once again, you can rely on that man every time to find a man, but Avalite dropping his ult in the back end. Takes Crystallizes res off the table. Now, Attack Visor coming out of Chromatic. This one could be huge, but it is not going to be. As Winstone Baloney finally get the kill on the Chromatic, but they still have a long way to go here. Jim with 2 kills there, looking good as Crystallize comes out. He gets the res. Now we see a 5v5 here. Thor and Scotch going down for their respective teams. As a self-destruct being chucked in by Treemeister finds your pen dry. 35 Crystallize. That's no healers available for very aggressive Genji.
And Danko
And
is
this
just contesting his mini diva here, and they're not able to kill him.
This could be a huge contest for Danko as he has bought a lot of time. Thor drops the hammer but is not able to get on the cart. Oh no, that could have been a disaster. As now Jim dropping the Winston ults, trying to keep Badge from getting off of this cart. But Scotch comes out, he gets the 1-man res. Tracer out of Chromatic, bought some time. Think Twice, dropping a Death Blossom but doesn't find any kills. Treemeister eating most of it. Thor charging back out for his web redemption. A lot of time here being bought by Badge, but they're not finding any kills. And the cart gonna be pushed only 2 seconds slower between these 2 teams, and we're going to overtime.
Wow.
And this is gonna be a really tense overtime because with only a minute to play, both of these teams have 1 to 2 fights on offense. They have to be very efficient with their time.
And very aggressive Genji. If I were in their shoes, I'd be a little nervous if the past 2 games, or I guess the way that attacking and defending went for both teams, when Stoney was able to cap within a minute, and they weren't. I wonder if that's going to reflect on how this overtime goes.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see anything different out of these guys. And we do see something pretty different coming out of Chromatic on
It's
the
a troll.
Bastion.
It's a troll. It's gotta be a
He's
troll.
still
There's no
sitting
way.
in base, so I'm thinking it
There's
probably
no fucking
won't happen. But for a pick that we do see established, your Pendry on the Symmetra again. Very high risk play coming out here when you only have a minute to play for. And actually, yeah, he's switching as well.
Base. Oh my god, he's walking
But
out of base.
we do see Chromatic 45 seconds into this map has convinced his teammates to let him do it, and they're also not taking the Symmetra, which I am very in favor of. So we are going to see some mostly well-known badge picks and then Chromatic on the Bastion. Now 30 on the other side, once again going for the opening shots as the Widowmaker. Actually, he's coming out of the base. He is content to play this Widowmaker to the point. Looking for some shots from deep. Chromatic has still not been seen as the first pick going to be on Evelites.
Yeah, Jim is doing a lot of damage here as the Bug Zappers think twice in the back line. He's going to die, but he's going to go down with taking Scotch with him. As 30 seconds are left in this overtime match.
Yeah, he's got to be careful with these 1-for-1s. 1-for-1's not going to be great on the defense right here. As we see another monkey for monkey trade this time. 30 still completely unpressured deep, looking for shots on Widow, but not finding them. But Chromatic punishing anyone that gets near this point. That defense matrix cannot eat Bastion forever. As Chromatic also has no pressure on him. Now they have the Widow site. This could be huge for knowing where to expect the Bastion. As Chromatic trying to find something. Both sound barriers going to be popped here. As Chromatic still putting down the big shots. He has the configuration tank available, and maybe not going to have a chance to pop into it. Crystallize does have the res available, and he's going to bring Chromatic back. But he apparently was trying to switch into his ult, and he had popped through some of it there. But regardless, it's going to be a defensive hold coming out of very aggressive Genji. And now all they have to do is get one tick on offense.
3-3. Switching sides.
Ultimately, a successful Bastion switch out of Chromatic.
Wow. That got a little scary there for a second for very aggressive Genji, but they were able to kind of hold out there. Not kind of, they did.
It was almost funny how that fight played out, where 30's Widow had an angle to give his team the confidence to press forward onto that point, but it ultimately just funneled them into where the Bastion was set up. A very interesting interaction in that fight between the two teams.
Well, when Stoney's not pulling out any sort of cheese, unlike very aggressive Genji did last map here.
They are going to be playing a defensive Genji, not what I expected to see here.
Along with that Roadhog pick again, man.
Hey man, they believe in the hog.
I'm not a hog believer. Can't convert me.
Just wait when his buffs come through. The third age of hog is coming.
Oh god, please no.
But in the meantime, we're going to stick with the second age of hog here as Treemeister playing pretty far forward, and with Stony Baloney getting kind of pushed back here right away. A nice push coming out in terms of pushing lines forward for Vargas Genji, but Evelite gets the big kill on the Think Twice, but 30 goes down to Thor. Not the 1-for-1 that Winstony Baloney wanted to take here, as this is a fight from all angles.
That gives Danko the skies too, as he's uncontested shooting at Scotch in the back line.
Yeah, look at him.
Stoney is holding, not paying attention to Danko at all, just taking unnecessary damage on all ends.
30 is now back though. He has his sights on the Pharah as Evelite and Thor go down for their respective teams here. Still a fight from all angles, but 30 takes Danko out of the skies. Could be the big shots as Crystallize now goes down. These guys don't really have the time for another fight, as very aggressive Genji just has to stall on this point. They cannot step off, and a big hammer comes out of Jim. Big Choice gets pulled on the point, and now the monkey jumps on at the last second here. But this is not looking great. There's a rocket barrage coming out of the air, only gets Scotch. But
A huge res. Crystallized coming on his one. He finds 3 of his teammates, and Scotch was down on the other team. Now think twice, trying to clear an area. They get 30. Oh no, this looks so good for Winstone Baloney. But the 3-man res out of Crystallized could have been enough. Evelite tried to find them all. He gets 2, but that's not enough. That's the one tick. And after an awful regular season, very aggressive Genji are going to the finals.
Holy fucking shit.
And man, there were just so many plays to watch on this map. But the play of the game is going to be going over to Crystallize here with the res in overtime. And we've been hounded on this guy all night. But this res won them this map. And as much as I wanted to give it to Josh, Steph Curry, Danko, this was by far the most important play on King's Row. As he just jumps in, gets his teammates back up, flips the man advantage in his team favor, does the mercy thing. And a heartbreaker for Winstone Baloney.
God, that was such a beautiful res. Beautiful res into the beat drop.
And that's going to do it. So, guys, we will see you in a week, a little earlier than normal, as we're going to be doing the first ever Betty Overwatch League award show before the finals next week. And I'm going to keep my promise. I will see you in the finals straight here from the caster booth. So tune in. We'll have posts about when that's all going to be going live. So we will catch you there.